Well, um, welcome everybody. If you have any questions as we go, um, what is the thing we do there? Is it the reactions? If you click on reactions down on the bottom row there, you'll get a thumbs up and a heart and a laugh till you cry and a little. Is there a raise hand? Yeah, raise hand. So if you click that raise hand, see what happens? You get a little hand there by the head, by my head. So if you have a question or you want to make a comment, just hit that thing first, and then that way we won't talk over each other.
Hit what?
And feel free to mute or unmute yourself. It doesn't really matter. I have never really written a hit song. I don't have. I mean, I've written a song that's gotten quarter million views, but it's not a hit. I don't really know that much about writing hit songs or writing songs that are commercial or have commercial potential or are marketable or fit the various marketing niches. In fact, it's one of the things I hate the most about the music business is how much commerce and business decisions intrude on the artistic process. I understand that it's necessary. People are making a living and they're investing tons of money. If you get signed by a record company, they are investing a lot of money in you, and they have a right to have their say. And until you reach the point where you're a proven commodity, and if you're Willie Nelson, I imagine you can pretty much do whatever the hell you please on your next album. But I'm not Willie Nelson. None of us are Willie Nelson. And so there are plenty of books and plenty of workshops and webinars and all this kind of stuff. I'm a member of BMI because I had to list a few songs with them many years back because of a movie project I was in. So I'm a member of BMI. They're constantly sending me, a newsletter every week with articles about how to be basically more marketable, how to sell your stuff more. And honestly, it's my least favorite part about the business, and it's the reason that I'm essentially retired from it and basically just doing my own thing, because all my decisions are artistic and creative. My only financial decisions are, can I afford to put a second guitar track on these songs because it costs me more money in the studio. That's it. The rest of it, I never say, well, I can't, should I put this song on the album, or should I include, I put 20 songs on my last album. I just don't care about commercial considerations. So if you're interested in that, there's loads of how to make a hook, how to produce your demo, how to keep your, blah, 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 how to make money at music, basically. So I don't know that much about that, and I'm not going to really be talking about that. What I do know a lot about is how to write a song that is satisfying to me, that makes me feel better for having written it and better for having sung it, that means something to me, and I call it releasing a charge, like the song that releases a charge for me. The way we used to say this in the old days was to get something off your chest, because it felt like something was pressing on your chest until you said this thing. In this case, until you sung that thing. John, did you have a question? Your hand's up over there. Can't hear you. You're muted.
Which John?
The guy with the hand.
Bardolero.
Hey, I can't turn that off on my end.
You can't turn off the hand?
Yeah.
Click it again.
There's no lower hand?
You click it, you just click it again.
There it is. It just disappeared. You're good.
Oh, thank you.
I think it goes up to me.
Guys.
You're like an old guy with a permanent turn signal on. So anyway, that's how I started writing songs in the first place, was to get things off my chest. I started writing in high school in 1975 just for an English project, a school project, and I wrote mainly for that. Then I decided to do music as a career, and I pursued that off and on for a number of years, and finally gave that up completely and just started doing it for love, just doing it for my own sanity. So what I want to talk about today are some ways that you can do that better. Write a song that satisfies you and releases that charge for you. My theory is that if a song really releases a charge for you and makes you smile when you think of it or when you sing it or when you thought of it, that chances are you're not the only one that this will release a charge for. Chances are it will touch someone else if it deeply touches you. Not always true. I mean, I've written songs that really deeply release a charge for me that don't seem to do anything for anybody else. And I've written songs that just released a minor charge for me that have gotten tons of airplay and have moved people, and I get tons of comments about. So go figure. But the main thing, the first thing, is that it has to please me and release that charge for me and make me feel better for having written or said it. So the first thing is to recognize, and I'd like you to just try this on for size, try this on as an exercise, or try this on as a way of looking at music and a way of looking at songs, and see how it feels for you. You don't have to do it most of the time like I do, but you can do it. And just try it on and see if it's a helpful tool. You don't have to adopt it as your actual opinion, but I don't really think in terms of good and bad with songs. I don't think in terms of that's a good song, that's a bad song. I know what people mean when they say that. Wiggle, Wiggle, Wiggle by Bob Dylan to me is a bad song. You know, it's not a good song, but at the same time, who am I to say? You know, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift does nothing for me. And that song moves millions of people. So how can I say it's a bad song? It does what songs are supposed to do really well. So rather than think in terms of good song or bad song, I mostly try to frame it in terms of I like this, I enjoy this, or I don't. This song works for me, or it doesn't. This verse works for me, this verse doesn't. This one releases that charge, this one doesn't. And the easiest way I found to think in terms of releasing a charge with music is to think in terms of this yes feeling. Like when you think of a song that you just absolutely love, like one of your favorite Beatles songs or Steely Dan songs or Tom Petty songs or Neil Young or Joni Mitchell. If you think of a song that you really love, you probably will have this sort of yes feeling, especially the first time you heard it. You know, you hear that song and you just go, what is that? Like, yes, And to think in terms of, does a song give you that feeling? Does a line or a verse or a portion of a song give you that yes feeling? Yeah. And conversely, there's also the no feeling. The feeling like, that doesn't really click for me. That doesn't resonate with me. Sometimes it's because I don't even understand the lyric or that I don't understand the phrase. It's like, oh, that you kind of lost me. And then where did you have it and where did you lose it? So today, as we look at this kind of stuff, and we might share a few of our ideas that are in progress or a song snippet or something. Try not to phrase things in the good, bad, right, wrong terminology. Try to phrase it, and as you think it to yourself, say, I enjoy this or I don't enjoy this, or this gives me that yes feeling or not, or this works for me or this doesn't. And try it on for size as you go through your life for the next week or two. I invite you to, in any case, to try it on for size, like when you talk about art as well. Like when you're talking about a work of art, when you're talking about a song, when you're talking about something that you like, instead of saying, what a great song, say, boy, I really love that song. This part here makes me feel really good. I just love that bridge. I love that verse. This part here doesn't really grab me. I kind of find myself drifting away, but this part here really gets me. Try it on for size, saying it out loud. Because one thing that's nice about this way of looking at music or of looking at art is that you literally can't have an argument. You can't argue. All you can do is share information. Like let's say Gus played us a little intro on the piano and played a verse of a song that he's working on, and he said, this part here, I really like. This really works for me. I can't say no, it doesn't. That doesn't work for you. You can say, I love this new movie, and I can't say no, you didn't. Right? Because we're not talking about the movie. We're talking about ourselves. Right? So if two people are talking about a movie and they're arguing about whether the movie was good or not, they're having an endless argument about something that cannot be determined, because art isn't just good or bad. It's obviously subjective. So instead, if I say, I really enjoyed that movie and here's why, and you say, oh, I hated that movie and here's why, we get to know each other because we're talking about ourselves, not the movie, right? So there's a kind of a new age self-help a cliche that goes, you can be right or you can be intimate, but you can't be both. Right? So being right or wrong is not about being intimate. It's about the objective, the matter at hand. Whereas when you're talking about what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, what worked about it, or what didn't work about it, you're speaking truth. There's no arguing with whether or not something worked for you. For instance, I am sick of the Beatles. I don't care if I never hear another Beatles song again. I've been bombarded by one wave of Beatle marketing after another since I was 7 years old. And I'm just tired of the Beatles. I know they're brilliant, they're brilliant musicians. Their lyrics do not move me anymore. I just don't care if I ever hear another Beatles song. Is that a majority position? No. No. The Beatles are beloved and people talk about them constantly. Every time I scroll through Facebook, literally every time, there's some post about the Beatles and how they've released, Ringo's solo albums are being remastered or whatever the hell it is. There's always another wave of marketing. Personally, they don't do much for me anymore. Other bands I never get tired of, but I'm done with the Beatles. Now, is that not a majority position? You can't argue with me, though. You can't say you're not sick of the Beatles. You can say they're great, and I can say, yeah, they're great. But we're not really learning about each other unless you say, when I hear Got to Get You Into My Life, I think about the summer of '64 when I met my girlfriend. Blah, blah, blah. You can do that, and then you get to know each other. So try it on for size when we're looking at stuff today, when you're looking at your own lyrics, when you're looking at lyrics of other people, art and music, different art forms. Try on saying to yourself, and especially saying it to other people, try on saying what you like, what you don't like, what moves you, what doesn't, what works for you, what doesn't, what gives you the yes feeling and what doesn't, as opposed to what's good or bad. Because I think when we're writing, we can easily fall into this trap of wanting to write a good song or wanting to write a great song or say, oh, that's a great line or this is a great thing, and I just don't really see how it's productive. I think checking into the physical sensations. How do you actually feel in your body while you listen to this? Does your heart open up? Does your mind light up? Do your arms? What are you feeling? What's the feeling that you're having in relation to the music? I sort of call it your inner genius. That the part of you that knows when something feels right and when something doesn't. And that feeling, that yes feeling, is what I'd like to suggest that you use as your inspiration, as your guide, as your editor, as your surgeon's knife, that you want to cut the things that you don't want. Use this feeling as your guide rather than what you think is good, what you think is bad, what you rationally know is commercial or is not commercial. Because many, everything that's commercial now at some point was not. Somebody broke the ground and did that. Remember, people were burning Beatle albums. They were considered devil's music. And now Christian rock bands, imitating those same sounds. So, it's use that feeling as opposed to your opinions and ideas, because you might be breaking new ground. You might be doing something that other people think is bad, and so what? You may be breaking new ground. You might be the next Beatles. So the first thing is tap into that feeling and get used to it. Practice it. Practice doing it. So I would just like right now to show you kind of what I mean. Does anybody feel like sharing a little snippet, a verse? You can either sing it, or you can just recite the lyrics, or you can just hum the melody, or whatever. But I would just like if someone could volunteer to just share with us a portion of something, hopefully something in progress, something that you haven't already kind of put the cap on and said on the shelf, this song is done. Anybody got something?
The lyrics I was working on this morning.
Ah, great.
Brandon.
All right, we'll do more than one. So why don't you start, Gus, and then we'll go to Diane.
All right, so the knock came late at night. I was tired and a little tight, but the knock was saying something wasn't right. She said her name was Red. She was looking for a bed. She had money but had nowhere to go. I let her in the door. She could sleep on the floor. It was cold on that dark Alaskan shore. When her hat came off her head, I could see where she had bled, and I listened hard to everything she said. No matter how hard you try to not be alive, life will break down the doors you've built inside and take you on another scary ride. Disappointment leads to shame, nothing ventured, nothing gained, and still it's hard to tame the hurt and pain. That was the intro. When she shows up at the door, then no matter how hard you try is the chorus, and then it goes
Right.
then it goes to a verse where I've been living here long alone in my cozy little hut. No internet, no phone, hiding away from those who would make me stay.
We got a delay. When Bill joined, there's a delay suddenly came in like an echo.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Oh, it went away. Cool. So we're kind of in the midst here. We're
I
talking
don't know
about.
where this thing is going.
Yeah, don't let me derail you. Go pick up where you were.
That's cool. So okay. So before we go further, so Gus just shared a verse that he's been working on, and I shared earlier about just a different, slightly different way of looking at music and looking at musical ideas, which is to not frame them in terms of good, bad, right or wrong, but instead to phrase them in terms of what worked for you, what didn't work for you, what gave you that yes feeling, and what gave you the no feeling, or what took you away from the song, what brought you in, what you like and what you didn't like, which is not arguable. That's just simply your truth, and you're not in the value, right, wrong, good, bad, hierarchical thinking. So Gus, I really like the intro. I really like the picture that you created of someone coming to your door. What was nice is that it wasn't clear to me whether or not that was a person or a stray animal or something. It could have been a dog, and it would be interesting to keep that in suspense. But it's obvious. But it turns out to be a person once there's a hat involved. But I like that part a lot. The part where you said nothing ventured, nothing gained, that particular part, that being a cliche and something that I've heard a bunch of times, that just kind of, I wasn't sure if that was a placeholder rhyme or if that was really what you meant. Like, whenever I hear a phrase that I've heard a zillion times, it kind of knocks me back a little bit, like how intentional is that in a way. But other than that, I feel like I'm on board for more, and I want to know where else that song's going to go. So yeah, I liked it. I would call it a promising start.
That's kind of what I was calling it, promising start.
Right. Now, I'm wondering if someone else would like to share their response to Gus's clip using those terms, not not saying this is good or bad, or not saying this was right or wrong or commercial or not, but not making a judgment about it, but just talking about your own response to it. For instance, I was curious, is this a person? Is this an animal? Oh, this is a person. And then leaning in again to say, okay, what are you going to say about this person? Stepping back a little when I heard the nothing ventured, nothing gained part, but then being down for more. That was my response to it. So does someone else want to give theirs? Diana?
Well, when I heard him say, took the hat off the head and saw where she bled, I just was like drawn in there. There's going to be more to this story. And so to me, it started to be, okay, this is a storytelling song.
Right. Right. I have that feeling too.
I'll make a comment. I like the preciseness of the location, an Alaska shore. That kind of gives it a setting.
Right. Right. I felt that too.
Right,
Lake Dogs?
It's kind of place. I didn't realize where I was going, but it's actually placed in Nome, Alaska. Just outside
He's hitting the wrong button.
of Nome. It's actually where this cabin is in my head.
Lake Dogs?
I got him muted.
Okay. Lake Dogs? Hey, they had a hand up a second ago. Unmute. Can you unmute Lake Dogs?
Now?
I think they're there.
Okay, Lake Dogs.
Okay.
You had a hand up?
Yes. When I heard the under the cap with the head thing there in Alaska, I thought shark attack. See,
I think if you get attacked by a shark in the head, it's unlikely you're going to be knocking on anyone's door. Maybe a bear. Maybe a bear.
a
bear, yeah.
But
anyway, I thought that's what the story was going to be, is what caused the scar. That's why I mute a lot, okay?
All right. No worries.
I got one comment.
Sure.
That setting the tone in Alaska just ripped me into the song. Whatever was going on lyrically, I was almost kind of drifting away from you, Gus. But as soon as Alaska hit, I was like, oh, okay. It just reeled me in.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. Good comment.
I don't often do it myself, but I always appreciate songs that are concrete and very kitchen sinky and very real, about real events and things that are happening around the songwriter. I personally am really drawn to abstraction more. I like songs about ideas and more general principles, but I try to steer it towards that whenever I can, because of the way it just so vividly brings some people who are really great at this. John Prine. I think if you study John Prine's work, you'll find that there's a story. Steely Dan, the band Steely Dan, every one of their songs, they said, would start as a whole short story, and then they would gradually condense it down to the stuff that they wanted to say. So sometimes there's cryptic lines in there, but to bring it down into the concrete and the abstract, as opposed to Don't Worry, Be Happy, which is an abstract song, which my kind of song, but I really think that's a great idea, to think about how can I make this song more grounded. Tom Waits said in most of his songs there's something to eat. So there's some food there, there's a room, there's walls, there's places, songs that conjure up a real place. Does anyone else want to share a little snippet, a verse, an idea, just something in progress? Oh no, we were going to go with Diana. Let's go with Diana and then we'll go with Marjorie. Diana, what do you got?
Well, you talked about how it's like therapeutic to get this stuff off your chest, and so I've got a song here that I wrote after the fires, and it did it for me as far as the therapy part, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a song that will be for anybody else.
Right.
So I've kind of filtered out a lot of it, But anyway, so the chorus I have is, when a crisis bends your head down, look up. With each step on shaky ground, look up. Love will lift us to clear air, pull us from the ashes of despair. So, I mean, that's the chorus, I think.
Right.
And then another part that might be the verse is, above the noise of crashing down of the world and chaos all around, set my feet on solid ground, look up.
Great. My initial response when you first started and you first said the first two lines is just, I really liked it. But a da 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 da, look up. But a da 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 da, look up. I just love that rhythm. Repeat the first thing you said again, please.
When a crisis bends your head down, look up.
Right.
With each step on shaky ground, look up. So.
Yeah. The one phrase there that pushed me back just a little bit was shaky ground, because I've heard that in a whole bunch of songs before. So, if I was going to suggest something that would work for me a little better, I would say keep your rhyme. Think of a slightly different adjective than shaky, or something you haven't heard before, like if you remember the situation that you were actually feeling, like how shaken you were, and then think, what else? How did the ground really feel under me when I did that? Shifting ground, or something a little bit. There's just something a little bit off the thing that you've heard before. I really like that part. And and a little bit later you said something about chaos. How did that go?
Yeah, above the noise of crashing down and the world in chaos all around, set my feet on solid ground.
Yeah, there's two. That's didn't grab me, but didn't really push me off because it's so abstract. If that part was a little more concrete, it would work a little better for me. And you said ground again. Mm-hmm. So you're I don't like to repeat stuff too close. So yeah. I feel like that I feel like that's a good skeleton. Like I feel like you could tweak some details in that chorusy part and that part and that would work a little better for me. That's only for me. That's only me. If what you've got works for you, then I say that trumps everything, because the song primarily is about you and primarily for you to release that charge for yourself. Secondarily, me. But if you get responses from people and 5 or 6 people tell you that a part doesn't work for them, you might want to look in there really a little more carefully and ask, does this really work for me? Because sometimes we're happy and we're satisfied with something that is just a momentary superficial satisfaction. And it seems firm. But if you really look at it and dig into it a little bit, you realize, I'm not that attached to this. This isn't the part that really moves me as much. So, sometimes when people really like something that I'm just kind of, ho-hum about. Like I remember a few times in my life I thought, oh, this is kind of a throwaway. And I'll, take the song to the goose and I'll start playing the song, and the crowd and the people would like really, really positive. And I go, oh, maybe there's something more here than I saw, and I look, and sometimes I'm like, nah, there's nothing here. And other times I look and go, actually, this is pretty good. I mean, this is pretty right. This goes deeper than I thought, So take other people's opinions with a grain of salt, but hear them, what works for them and what doesn't, because they're a human being with all the faculties that you have too. And if something doesn't work for them, maybe it's worth a re-examination. Maybe. But it's up to you to decide if it does the thing for you or not. But I really like the way you juxtapose the look up with when what is it bends you down?
Crisis bends your head down.
Yeah, I like that. It's like it's literal. When crisis bends your head down, look up. I really like that. I really like that graphic quality of that. It brings me into the place. Instead of just look up as an abstract thing, you mean literally look up in that verse. So I like that part. Now, does anybody else want to give a response to that, kind of in these terms that we're using rather than good, bad, good, bad, right, wrong, that kind of stuff. Bill?
Well, I like the ambiguity of the real world and the metaphorical world. I like being able to apply it to a solid thought or idea, as well as just, being, gosh, that I just experienced that. To me, and you were mentioning it earlier that you didn't like things that were so grounded. I like the ambiguity. I think that that's really where the poetry thrives.
Cool. Another thing too is that no one has yet come up with a set formula that you can just apply and move everybody. I mean, what works for one person doesn't work for another. I mean, the Beatles don't work for me. So you could write a song just like a Beatles song, and I'd be like, ugh, So, and who am I to say? You know what I mean? So this is all just, it's food for your intuition, Diana. What we're saying here, it's just food for your intuition. Just take it in. If you just take things in, take opinions in, take responses in, and just sit with it, it'll affect your integrative mind and body, and it'll affect the way you write without you having to do anything. You just have to take it in, not be defended against it, and not be just, oh my God, their opinion is the truth. I need to change this, I need to change that. Just take it in. Just take in this person, this part works for them. This person, that part works for them. Take it in and let it process in there, and then you'll see where your writing actually goes from there. Another response to Diana's? Okay, Marjorie, did you want to share a little something you were working on? We'll do one more of these, and then we'll move on to the next point. You're muted, Marjorie. She's muted. Okay, you were muted, Marjorie. You're not anymore, but you were.
Maybe Steve has to unmute.
Okay, she's not muted now. Marjorie?
I don't hear.
No, I don't hear her either. Are you mute? We can't hear you. She's according to my thing, she's not muted. Why can't we hear her?
How's this?
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I liked, having to deal with a difficulty, a crisis. I like those songs, Diana. And Gus, like Diana, that bled work. I think for survival, people just like hone in on danger and any kind of hint at danger. So, but I didn't know if that was physical or kind of feelings. I was confused by the blood part in a way, because I wasn't sure if she was physically hurt or her heart bleeds, which is kind of, you've heard that term a lot. So, but yeah, just anyway, well, let's see. This song is, I'm trying to write a song about a monarch butterfly and the fact that they're disappearing. At least some Wikipedia says they're not, but a lot of environmental groups say they are, and I haven't seen one in a long time. So I'm
certainly threatened.
Pardon?
Certainly threatened.
Certainly threatened, yeah. So, let's see. I begin with a chorus. This is, I'm trying to get something that's weird, kind of. I have a chorus in the first and the last, and not in between. And in between, I have verses that describe kind of a monarch, and then it's kind of long. And then in the middle, it has about a little girl that picks up a.
Why don't you give us like a verse and a chorus?
All right. Okay. Here's the chorus. I cannot build a house. I cannot sing a song. And in a very few years, my kind May Be Gone. So it's taking like the first person for I like the monarch butterflies talking.
Right.
And it's and then a verse. Let's see, my orange, white and black wings were admired for their beauty, but we are fast disappearing as many an insect besides me. And then it kind of goes into an omniscient kind of thing. A lot of crops need us insects to pollinate. Farms are failing, and failing. There's less food. One reason humans migrate. And then I go into kind of an interruption about the little girl. I don't know how much of this you want me to.
Well, no, that's a good taste. The main point I want to make at this particular point about this particular section of this workshop is just to get you used to looking at music that way. To get used to looking what works for me and what doesn't. What works for me is the sentiment of the song. I love insects too. What doesn't work for me, at least so far, just hearing the lyrics, is it's a little bit, it's a little dry. It's a little scientific, at least the part that you shared. So you'd have, for that to work for me, the delivery and the way that you sing it has to kind of include in some way. It has to roll with that kind of scientific, almost textbooky kind of information and make that musical. You know what I mean? Like Tom Lehrer is really good at that.
Tom who?
Tom Lehrer, Lehrer, I believe it's spelled. Poisoning Pigeons in the Park. And what was this big song though? The one that was
the Elements.
Yes, he was a professor at MIT who decided to play piano and sing songs for a while. They're hilarious. They're very intellectual, and they're very smart, and there's information in the song, but he does it in such a clever way that you don't really quite realize that there's information in the song. But anybody else want to share a personal response to that song? How did your body feel while you were listening? What worked for you? What didn't work? What gave you a yes feeling and what didn't?
I have one. Marjorie, cool, very cool. What stirred in me for this whole thing was, instead of exhausting a monarch adventure through an entire song, subtly brace off into anything else. We are all in danger. We are all in danger. You could gradually move to us all from there.
Actually,
I love that.
I do. I cannot build a house. I cannot write a song. In a very few years, more kings of this earth may be gone.
Right.
Great idea.
I love we're all endangered. Like as soon as you said that we're all endangered, I just like that lit me up. Like that could be a whole song.
We're included.
A song could turn on that. Right. Okay, so I think you get my point, and that is to look at your own music and to look at your own ideas and your own perception of other people's music in these terms. Talk to yourself and talk to other people. You'll be surprised how refreshing it is to be listening to an open mic set or online, or be listening to something someone does, and instead of saying great set, great song, say I really enjoyed that. I really like the part where you did this. That song gave me a good feeling in my chest. I mean, stuff like that. It just gets you out of the right, wrong, good, bad, commercial, not commercial, all those hierarchies that we're constantly bombarded with all the time in a commerce-oriented society. And I'm not suggesting that you do this as a way of life. It is mine, and I try to do it all the time. I practice. I go on YouTube all the time, and I will actually write comments just to sharpen my writing skills. Like I'll try to write a pithy paragraph that really expresses what I feel about whatever video I happen to be watching. And I try not to use the words good, bad, right, wrong, anything like that. I try to take all value judgments out of it and just talk about my own experience of it. And it's just a great exercise. But even if you don't want to adopt it as a way of life and a way that you look at art or a deep philosophy, just try it on as a lens that you can put on and take off. You can go back to saying things are good or bad anytime you want to, but I invite you to try it on and see what it does for your own writing. So I want to move on to another idea, and this one is pretty simple, but I'm going to suggest that you, however organized you are about your songwriting, whatever level of organization you have around your songwriting, I'm going to suggest that you gently, without too much force, take it up one notch. That you actually make a small effort to be a little bit more organized in your songwriting. And chances are you probably can be at least a little bit more organized. The reason I say this is because I think that by being more organized in my writing process, I am actually, it's the equivalent of sewing up my nets if I was a fisherman. You're going to catch more fish, and in this case, you're just sort of signaling to your muse, to your inspiration, to God, to your unconscious mind, whatever you want to call it, this place that these ideas come from, right? Because they just pop up in our heads. They just appear in us, right? We don't create them. They just appear. And you keep it or you don't keep it, right? But I think you're signaling to that part that you are ready to receive this. It's kind of like, I remember one time I had a business, and I was an employee, and I was about to move, I was transitioning to self-employment. And while I was transitioning to self-employment, I was really concerned about the tax situation, because I was a young guy at that point. This is many years ago, and I had all this on the books income through my regular job, and then my self-employment income was off the books, and I wanted to switch to that full time, but when it was just a little hobby that was barely making any money, I wasn't making enough money to really be too worried about the taxes. But I realized that I wasn't set up to make money. I was actually hoping that I wouldn't make too much money, because then I'd have more of a tax problem. So I got an accountant, and she taught me how to set up my books and how to keep track of my expenses and my income, so that I could make as much money as I wanted and not feel nervous about it or bad about it in any way. So I set up a structure that would permit me to make as much money as I could in my field and still feel good about it. I couldn't be overwhelmed by more money. I had the structure all set up, and as a course of that, I relaxed and I made a little more money. So I want to share with you just briefly my own songwriting process and my own level of organization. Not to say do it like I do it, but just to give you maybe a few hints or a few ideas, or just to open the door to being more organized in your songwriting process. So first of all, I have scratch paper with me in my backpack. I have it right here in front of me, even though I have a computer sitting right here. I can also open up QuickTime and hit new recording and record off this webcam any musical ideas or any lyrical ideas I have. I also have a voice recorder in my backpack in case I get some kind of a musical inspiration and I want to just say it into the recorder. So right away I'm just ready to capture any snippet or line or phrase or idea that comes to me. I really believe wholeheartedly in doing this. I look for a phrase, a word, an idea, anything that releases a charge for me. I mean, we all have had the experience, I'm sure, of the song that writes itself, where you just wake up with an idea. McCartney woke up one morning with the melody to Yesterday fully formed in his head. He was going to people in parties and humming it to them and saying, "Have you heard this before?" Because he thought it must have been a song from... Now, this is the most covered song in musical history. So there's like 2,000 covers of Yesterday out there. So he just woke up with it in his head. So did he write it? You know, it just occurred to him. But I'll tell you what, you got to write it down. Keith Richards was gifted I can't quite see that. I can't see it.
No Beatles.
No. Keith Richards, Stones. Keith Richards was gifted a cassette recorder that would record automatically if he talked, like a sound activated cassette recorder. And he set it by his bed, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, looked at the tape recorder, and all the tape was at the other side of the thing. He played it back. It was mostly snoring, but right in the middle of it, guess what? He actually hummed the lick to Satisfaction into this tape recorder. So have something around. We all know what it's like when the song appears fully formed and it almost writes itself. I've had many songs do that, but the majority not. What will occur to me is just one line, just one phrase or one idea that just releases a charge. One time I was at the Wild Goose, and I was getting ready to leave for the night, and my buddy, who some of you guys know, Jack Fisher, was there playing video poker. You know, sitting at the machine doing and as I'm leaving, I say, Jack, you know those things are just attacks on people that suck at math. And he says, yeah, I know. I just want to get ahead and quit. And when I heard that phrase, get ahead and quit, I just want to get ahead and quit. I said, can I take that? Can I use that? And he said, sure. So I wrote a song called Get Ahead and Quit, and it was all about video poker. I mean, or gambling in general, that feeling of being like, I'm stuck here, I'm doing this, I'm not really liking this, my life force is draining away as I sit here doing this stupid thing. I just want to get ahead and quit. And it's like, there's a trap in that you don't have to get ahead to quit. But so first of all, I capture any little idea, any little snippet, any little thing. I wrote that down that night, right? So now I'm going to open up a folder on my computer right now, and this folder is called New Songs, right? And it has a couple of files in it. One folder says Ideas, and one folder says New Album. So the new album is just my latest batch of done songs. So I have a tentative title for my new album. It's going to be called Who's a Good Dog? Like, who's a good dog? You know, well, you say that to your dog. Who's a good dog? And that's the tentative title. And then under that file, I have the actual lyrics to 7 songs that are done, that are going to be part of that album. I also have under Ideas. I also have under New Songs, I have a folder called Ideas. So one of these subfolders in Ideas is just new. So every time I get a new idea, especially we're talking about lyrics here. Every time I get a new lyric idea, I enter it into a Word document, just the raw idea, and I put it into this new file or new folder. Get my files and folders mixed up. So each idea gets a Word document, and I number them. Not because the number is that important, but just because I want to keep them in the order that they appeared to me. Because when I'm looking through a big folder of a bunch of things, if I remember it was an idea from a while back, I know that number is lower and higher. So I just number them. So my very latest song idea here is number 599. And 599, it just says No Spring Chicken. And I don't exactly remember what this, oh yeah, it says, I'm no spring chicken, more like a fall rooster. My crow ain't what it used to be, but I can still wake you up. So you know, that's just an idea, right? It's not a whole song. It may never be anything. I may end up using it as a portion of something. But that's number 599, No Spring Chicken. Number 598, I just had an idea, since I'm turning 64 this summer, to write an answer to the song When I'm 64. You know, the Beatles song. So sorry, mentioned the Beatles again. Um, uh, you know, I thought, well, I'll write a response to when I'm 64, like some kind of some kind of an answer to it. I don't have one yet. I go down to 597. You know the song by Dwight Yoakam called "The Streets of Bakersfield." It's a song that's sort of emblematic of the Bakersfield sound, and it starts, "You don't know me, but you don't like me," and I just thought of I just had the idea, "You don't know me, but you like me." So it's just an idea. It's not meant necessarily go anywhere. Most of these ideas don't go anywhere. But I'll tell you, man, if you grab them all, it's more likely that you're going to grab one that does go somewhere. So anyway, under new, I have you know, several ideas numbered that way. When I periodically look at these ideas, and if I think that's okay, but it doesn't really grab me, but I'm not ready to delete it, I drop it in a folder that I just call B's, like B-side, B ideas, like just not hot right now. So for instance, I had an idea called "You Make Me Stupid." So now I kind of like that one. I'm trying to think of one that I could move over there, but I don't have one yet. But anyway, if any of these ideas in the new folder, because I'm constantly culling the new folder, I just drop them in there when I get them, and then I'll go through there and I'll look at these new ideas, and I'll either put them in the B file, which is kind of a demotion, or I'll put them in the prospects file, which is a promotion. That means it's a prospect. I feel like, oh, this could be something. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to move the No Spring Chicken from new over to prospects. So my prospects folder right now has 59 Word documents in it, and these are all songs in various stages of exploration. This is where I come when I feel like I want to. I'm in the mood to kind of see what's going on in there. I'll go into the prospects. I'll just click on one of these ideas and I'll look it over. And if I don't like it anymore, if it's not really grabbing me, I demote it to the B file. And if I do like it, I might add a little bit to it, add a line or two or a verse or two, and shape it a little bit, add something, just seeing if something's there. And if something is there and it's starting to, you know, kind of take shape a little bit more, like maybe I got a verse and a chorus, or maybe two verses and a chorus, then I'll move it over to my other folder, which I just call Closer. Closer are the ones that are getting close to being ready to be a song. Right now I've got 10 songs in there, and if I go through and look at those, I'll either demote them to prospects, or I'll demote them to Bs, or I'll keep them in the Closer file until one of the Closer songs usually catches fire for me. One of them catches fire, and I'm like, okay, I got to finish this thing. And then once it's there, it's in my head, in the back of my head, and I go for a walk. I'm listening, and I'm trying to find how can I move this forward? What's the rhyme structure? What's the, you know, what am I doing there? And I may have music in my head as I go, like placeholder music, just like a rhythm, or I may have an actual melody in my head. Like one of my prospects here is just the idea for a country song. It's called "Where's My House?" Where's my house? Where's my truck? Where's my wife? Where's my luck? You know, that kind of thing. So I just feel like, oh, that's a prospect, you know? And so, but if I started to shape that a little bit more and got that a little bit more organized, it would be like a prime prospect. And then finally, when I feel like, okay, this is almost done, that's a point where I might play it at an open mic, because something about playing a song outside of myself kind of firms it up a little bit, and I get ideas about the pacing, or about, sometimes I'll literally make up something on the spot while I'm playing it the first time, that there's something about that period where it's still kind of, it's like quick drying cement that's on the verge of hardening, and I can still mold things a little bit. And then when it's actually a done song, I move it over to that next new album file. So you can see I've got a little hierarchy of files here, and they all start in new. From new, they can go down to the B file, or they can go up to the prospects file. From the prospects folder, they can go up to closer, they can stay in prospects, or they can go down to the B file. And from closer, they can hang there, or they can move over to the finally done songs. So you can see that my system here, and I'm not suggesting that you do this, but you can see that my system here is laid out and ready for ideas. Like it's organized and it's ready to take an idea and work on it. Now sometimes I get an idea that goes straight from new to closer and to new song in a week. It just skips all the preliminaries and evolution because the song it's one of those write yourself kind of songs, and I'm perfectly happy for that to happen too. But one of the points I may bring up a little bit later is this idea that when you don't have any work, sharpen your tools. So this is what farmers do. Like in the off season, they go into the barn, they clean up the barn, they sharpen the tools, they look to see what they need to repair. If you're a fisherman, you sew up your nets. If you're a carpenter, you clean the shop and look and see what's missing, what's broken, what's, you know. And sometimes some people, like hunters, will take apart their guns and put them back together again just to make sure they can still do that. You run through safety drills. So when you don't have any work, this is one of the things that I do when I don't have any inspiration, when I don't have anything that's really grabbing me. I can open up my new folder and I can look and say which one of can I move any of these new ideas forward a little bit? Can I move any of these prospects forward a little bit? Can I move any of these ones that are closer a little further forward? Can I just do that? Or I'll just do housekeeping. I'll just bump things down or up according to my feeling about them at the moment. So I may go, you know, I'm tired of this thing. I'm going to move this to the B file. I've had this in here for a year and I haven't thought of anything. So it's having your system organized a little bit like this can be a good way to give yourself a way to keep your foot in the door when you don't have any ideas. It's a way to sharpen your tools. So I'm wondering if anyone has any ideas about how you personally, how you personally could be more organized. Is there anything that occurs to you that would help you take your own songwriting process organization a little bit forward?
That resonated with me, to have a new subdirectory and pop ideas in there. I put them all in my top directory usually when I come up with something that gets as far as being a document, and I will eventually then move it into other folders as I produce it and get it. But it'll exist there at that top level through these stages. So I like this idea. I'm definitely going to take a look at that. I don't
Cool.
think I don't think I'll put numbers on it because I just don't like the numbers shit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just a personal thing. I'm a little OCD that way, but like if you, I love the idea of sort of a hierarchy a little bit, so that if you wanna go into the trenches and find something that's barely formed and see if you can dig it up a little bit, or if you're feeling like, you know, maybe like something that'll be a little easier, like going into something that's already half written that you want to just kind of advance, or if you want to feel like polishing or finishing something, you go to that folder. So it's a nice way to keep your stuff ready for whatever you feel like working on.
Yeah, I think that can help better organize it because I forget that I have this thing going on, and
Yes, right.
I'm usually more focused on a particular piece, and I tend to want to do them once I start developing them. I keep pretty focused on those until I either give them up or just have to set it aside because it's just not. It's
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it's just nice to have containers for the various categories.
Yeah, I like that.
Anybody else see any way that they could be possibly a little bit more organized and a little more intentional in their process?
Yeah, I just want to agree with everything you said. I've been putting things in a hierarchy of folders for years and years.
Great.
Plus, I have audio recorders on both my phone and my watch and my computer. At my disposal, I can turn them on within seconds. And I do that. I've written so many songs while driving. especially on long trips.
Absolutely.
I actually wrote "I Won't Give Up Rock and Roll" because I was following. When you're driving down the freeway and a car will pass you, and then a little bit later you'll pass it, and you kind of play leapfrog for a while. Well, the one I was playing leapfrog with 30 years ago had a bumper sticker that said, "If it ain't country, you ain't riding with me." And I got nothing against country music, but I thought it was a little narrow-minded myself. So I ended up writing the song that "I Won't Give Up Rock and Roll."
Yes, exactly. Having the ability, and look, none of us are young. No matter what, write it down. If it's the most basic idea in the world that you could not possibly forget, write it down. Because I have had some ideas that were as rock solid as a Rolling Stones song, and I forgot them. I thought I was going to remember. It seemed impossible that I could forget. The way I think of it is like, my psyche is at the Library of Congress, and I'm in a certain room, and I'm in that room, and this idea is so crystal clear, I couldn't possibly forget it, as long as I'm in that room. But if I pull out of that, and I'm in the library, sometimes I have to read. You ever do this? You have an idea, and you forget it, and then you go, wait a minute, what was I listening to on the radio? You put that on. What was I thinking? What was my light train of thought? And if you follow the train of thought back, you can go, there it is, because you go back to that room. But trying to approach it from the outside is just about impossible. So I definitely recommend write that shit down.
That happens to me in the shower.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? If you don't have anything to write it down, there's a little trick you can do. Say it out loud. Like, say the idea. Say the words out loud a couple times if you're falling asleep and you just are too tired to reach for the pen. Say it out loud a couple times. You might be less likely to forget it because you're putting it into a different part of your brain, the verbal speak out loud part.
I've tried that. It doesn't work. I gotta write it down.
Yeah, it's a desperate measure, but it sometimes can grab it for you. But yeah, write it down, write it down, or think of an association or something, like you could put your pen in a cross or something that says, okay, that's to remind me of that idea or whatever. So anybody else have any ideas about how they could be a little bit more organized in their own writing and musical world?
Well, I keep notebooks, and I think your idea of putting it in folders and categorizing it is a great one, because I keep going back to things that I've written before, but it's in no particular order. So just organization would be a good idea. Are you writing down just lyrics, or are you putting down chord changes, or anything you can think of?
I mainly do lyrics. I'm not that complicated musically, but sometimes I'll put in there 7th fret E minor blues, or sometimes I'll put a little clue like that. It's mostly, for me, it's mostly the lyrics. But if the important thing, I think, is not what you specifically do to make your process more organized. The important thing, I think, is just to make any effort at all to make your process more organized. It's a signal to yourself and to your own unconscious. You're saying, I am ready. I am ready. I'm willing to put in some work. I'm willing to put in a little effort to organize myself so that I can be better ready to catch these ideas when they fall out of the sky or rise up out of the depths. It's just a statement of willingness. It's just a statement, like my books. When I got my accountant and got my book set up, it was a statement to me and to the universe, if you will, that I am ready to make more money. I'm ready. I can accommodate as much income as I can generate, instead of being, I hope I don't make more than this amount because then I'll have to. It's like having your machinery ready for the work. It sort of invites the work a little bit, and I think it can help. So just suggesting that you think of ways that you could be a little bit more organized, just as a gesture. It's not about being better or worse or more like me or more like someone else. It's a statement to yourself that you're ready, and I think it can be helpful. I want to go on to another point now, and this is a great one. This is something I got from my brother, who is a screenwriter and novelist down in Hollywood, and it's very simple, but You can do this anytime in your songwriting process. You can do it at the very beginning, you can do it in the middle, and you can do it when the song is almost done. And it's very simple. I call it go on a cliche hunt. And that means look over your ideas, look over your lyrics, and ask yourself, have I ever heard this before? Is there an expression? Is there a phrase? Have I ever heard these words in this order before? Break of dawn, thinking and drinking. Have I heard this rhyme before? Like the stars above, right as rain. And it doesn't mean that you should take them out. I'm not saying that, but go on a hunt for those cliches, and then ask yourself, can I replace this with something fresher? Can I replace this with something I haven't heard before? Can I make this a little more general, or a little more specific, or a little more something? Can I subvert the cliche? Can I spin it around the other way, a different way than it's usually used? Last night, was it you, Bill? Did you do a song? And I said it reminded me of my song, Hearing It Like It Was. Written All Over Your Voice? No, it was Gus. Right, it was written all over your voice. That is a subversion of a cliche. The cliche is it's written all over your face. So if I had a song with written all over her face in the lyric, that would be suspect to me. I would look at that and say, written all over her face. How can I change that? And keep the rhyme and keep the face. Like I could say it was like handwriting on her face, or I could say I could see the letters of the word fuck you on her face, or I could, whatever it is, like come up with another way to say it that's not the cliche way. Now, sometimes a cliche releases the charge for you. So remember, the number one editor acts principle is, does it work for you? Does that give you that yes feeling? Is this really what I wanted to say? I have found myself that every once in a while, what I really want to say is precisely a cliche. And so I say, okay, I will say it. But 9 times out of 10, if it's a cliche, if it's something I've heard a zillion times before, chances are it's probably a case of me letting the rhyme write the song rather than what I actually really wanted to say. And I will sit and I'll look at that phrasing, I'll look at those words, and I'll come up with something better. So, if it does it for you, that's the inner directed approach. Then that's the way it is. But chances are, weeding out a cliche will make the song more satisfying and more fun and more moving for you. Now, that said, I wouldn't tell you lose the cliches to be more commercial, and you go to songwriting workshops and every one of them will say, don't use cliches, don't use cliches, don't use cliches. But yet, I've heard hit songs in the last month or two that not only have cliches in them, they are nothing but cliches. Nothing but. Every single, and I'm not exaggerating, every single line is a cliche. And it's $1 million song that these kids are listening to like it's gold. So I can't say that not using cliches will make your song more successful or reach more people, because everybody says don't use them, but they're all over the place. You can just grab any hit song at all, and chances are you'll find a major cliche in the first verse. And my point is that I don't think those cliches really move the person who's writing them. I think their calculations are more commercial, and also they're probably more into the music than the lyrics. They just want to create this new sound. And if they end up saying, look before you leap, look before you leap, look before you leap, 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 look before you leap, leap, look before you leap. That's half pop songs, right? You say something really simple and repeat each word and then repeat each combination of the words and just hammer it together with some great music, and the next thing you know, you got $1 million. But in terms of really a lyric that really says something for you, that touches somebody and moves someone and releases a charge for them, I suggest going on a cliche hunt. And what I would do is look over your idea and circle anything that you've heard before, or mark anything that you've heard before, and just see if you can come up with a different combination of words, maybe even that keeps your rhyme structure intact. It doesn't mean rewrite the whole song. You might be able to keep the same rhyme. I've done that many times. I keep the same exact rhyme, but I weave the words a little differently leading up to that rhyme so that I don't have to say the thing that I and everybody else has heard a million times. So I invite you to take, if you would take, look at one of the look at one of the ideas that you have in front of you right now, like some lyrical snippets or something that you're working on. Just pull one up and just give it a look and see if there's anything on there that you have heard before. Here's one of the great ones that gets used all the time, because in our language, heart is important, right? The heart, it's a big part of all of our lives. So many people will rhyme heart with start. I have done it myself. There's not a ton of rhymes for heart, and it's a big crucial word. Now, if you're in France, writing songs in French, everything has to rhyme with cool, but in here, it has to rhyme with heart. So the phrase, I knew it from the start, should be illegal. Because number one, it's not true. It's not true. If you actually knew it from, and believe me, I have said I knew it from the start in songs too. But if I really knew it from the start, I wouldn't have done it. Like, that's what knowledge is. I knew from the start she was going to break my heart. No, you didn't. Right? So, however, if that works for you, and that's what gives you the charge break feeling, if that's what releases the charge, then by all means know it from the start. And if that's what you really meant, keep it. But it would be something that at the very least I would recommend looking over more carefully. Sometimes you can take a cliche and you can use it and even acknowledge it. Like, for instance, you can say, thinking, I thought of this while I was writing this little portion. I thought, thinking and drinking are country cliches, but that's what I'm doing most of the day. So I'm actually saying the thinking and drinking cliche, and then I'm saying it's a cliche. And then I'm saying, but that's what I'm doing anyway. So it kind of works for me. So that may actually end up being a song. But to say, yeah, I'm thinking and I'm drinking, it's like we all know that that's been said a million times. So it would at the very least be something that I would look over and see if I could switch. So does anybody have a song snippet in front of them? Look it over and see if you can find anything in there that you've heard before. Just any expression that is not your own.
Gene?
Yes.
George and Ira Gershwin has a whole song about that blah, 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 blah tune, blah, 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 blah moon. You heard it? Yeah, that's
hilarious.
how it goes. Yeah.
I'm not saying this will make you more money. A friend of mine told me about a songwriting duo back in the Tin Pan Alley days, and they literally did a survey of all the hit songs in the past 10 years, and they looked at what were the most common words in the title, and it turned out to be Blue Moon June, and they literally wrote a song called Blue Moon June, and it ended up being a hit. So
June was in there too.
Yeah.
But everything is blah blah blah, and then. No.
And then the cliche. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is more like to make the song more genuinely moving for you and maybe the people that you play it for. Commercially, it's a mystery why things make money, but cliches do not keep you from making money. Anybody got a snippet they've looked over and seen if they've found any? Did you find any? Anything that you've heard before?
I've got one that's entirely cliche all the way through.
But that's intentional, right?
It was.
Yeah, I thought of doing that too. What do you got, Blake Dogs? Anything?
We have to unmute.
We have a.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
We have a tune that's all cliche.
Well, I don't. I'm not talking so much about intentionally subverting the cliche. I'm not talking about intentionally commenting on the cliche idea. I mean, like something that you actually like, something that's a song about your life, and when Diana said standing on shaky ground, you know, or what was the other thing? She had another one that I thought, oh, I've heard that before, you know, and it doesn't mean take it out. It just means see if there's another way. No one's going to admit to it.
You know, Dean, I worked on
ours was intentional.
What?
Dean, so I in the further on in the song, I was trying to define what her problem was, and it started out she was searching for love, for something to make life worthwhile, and he looked like a good guy with $1 million smile. So the $1 million smile is kind of
right. So you know what I would think in terms of like what kind of smile that fits the you know, like a car salesman smile, or like a, you know, like think of a kind of smile that is maybe more specific and isn't an expression that we've heard, you know, you look like $1 million or the $1 million, you know, whatever. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the kind of thing where you can leave the rhyme. You know, you can leave the smile because that was the seductive thing. But then, like, look into your story and say, what kind of smile would this guy really have had specifically? Like, and that's what'll bring it to life more than the $1 million smile just says seductive, you know, or it lit up the room, or it was bright, you know, like that. But you could hint at sinister stuff. You could hint at, you know, psychological stuff. You could say, you know, had a smile, you know, like she recognized her daddy's smile or something like that. You know, you could get into layers and all kinds of stuff of what kind of smile is $1 million smile. What could be more specific than that? We're talking about weeding out cliches, Diana. We're talking about going over lyrical ideas and looking for anything you've heard before and seeing if you can find a fresher, more specific, more livelier, ultimately one that releases a charge more for you, better for you than the By the Stars Above, or, you know, that those kind of thinking and drinking and, you know, blue you true, you know, that kind of stuff. I like, you know, I don't mind using a cliche as long as that's what I wanted to say. Right? And if you're writing a song about cliches, then yeah, you're going to use cliches. But if you're writing a song that's not, you know, it's about your life or about a story you're telling, and you say right as rain, then, you know, maybe think of right as pain. Sometimes you can just take a key word in the cliche and replace it with a rhyme, and that can alter it and spin it a different way. Like that song that I mentioned last night called "Hearing It Like It Was." You keep telling it like it is. I keep hearing it like it was. So I've just flipped, you know, you kind of flip one around. So that is a great exercise that I really highly recommend. Here's another technical point that might help with your writing. You're probably already doing this, but maybe not. I really think it's great to develop a way that you can move easily words and sections and verses of songs around, so that you can keep alternative ideas in play. Often, if I'm on a Word document and I say I have a verse and maybe it has a cliche or two in it, or maybe it has something that I want to change, often I'll copy that verse. I'll copy the one I've got and drag it to the page underneath the main page I'm working on, and then I'll work on rewriting it. So I've got it down there at the bottom in case I want to go back to it. But I'll start reworking it. I don't rework it if I don't keep the earlier version. So in that case, I just cut and paste it and drop it down below. Often when I finish my song, there's a top page that's the finished song, and below that might be 2 or 3 pages of scraps and phrases and alternate versions and stuff that I've just kept pushing down, and I just delete all that at the end if there's nothing I can salvage for another song. When I'm writing, if I'm writing it on paper, I just wrote, I don't know if you can see this. Oh, it's backwards. Forget it. I wrote, this was it. So if I wanted to say this is it, but I also wanted to keep this was it in play, I would write this is, and I'd put a box around is, and then I'd write what, and I'd put a box around what, and then I would put it. So I know that those boxed ones are interchangeable, or I could lose one, or I could put one in there. So when I'm typing, I'll just put a forward slash between, like I might have a sentence or a line, and then I come to 2 or 3 words that I think this could go I, or it could go we, or it could go us, or a different tense or whatever. So I'll put a slash mark in there and put the alternate word in there. And if that calls to mind an alternate phrase later, I'll put a slash there and change the tense to that word. So if I need to just drop the one I don't like, I can just delete them, and then it just comes together. But my point is to have the way to see your lyrics as like building blocks that you can move around. In the days before computers and cut and pasting, I just did it I would be writing this out on paper, and I'd put things in blocks, and I would know that, okay, that tells my mind anything that's in a box means that there's an alternate version there, or I could move those pieces around. Many times in a process, I will change the order of the verses. I'll decide to make one of the verses the chorus, or I'll say 2 verses in a chorus instead of 1. And it's really helpful to be able to move these things around so you're not locked into kind of a set way of doing it. So you can have a lot of alternate stuff. I'm curious, Bill, you're an organized writer. Do you do stuff like that?
I was thinking as you were talking, I was going to tell you to think outside the box. But I actually came from the school of thought that there are no boxes. I actually had handed in homework that was written like this all over the page.
Oh, interesting.
And teacher sent me to a remedial writing.
That was a joy for your teachers.
But no, I do tend to, I was in the computer industry for many, many years. My bachelor's would have been in journalism if I didn't drop out to go work for Apple Computer. So I've been organizing constantly. I used to tell my kids that the 2 most important classes to take are library science, so you can look up anything you don't know, and typing, so that you can then
Hell yes to the typing, yeah.
I was at Apple in the very, very beginning, and so word processors that was the whole reason for me to own a computer, was to be able to do that cut and paste. And when it became graphical, that was magical to me. And I do the same thing that you're describing. Is I will cut lines out and I'll put them down at the bottom. If you look at just about every one of my lyrics in my folders and folders, just like you do, there are a whole bunch of phrases or words or gobbledygook down at the bottom.
Right. The stuff you didn't use, right.
Because even though I didn't use it, I might still use it somewhere else.
Or you might use it in that song. You might reject it in the song for now. And then you realize you changed something and you can bring it back. Yeah.
Keep it available to me. Now there's a box in the other room of poetry and things that I wrote before computers that need to be entered in, because every now and again I'll go through that box and I'll discover a gem.
Right.
Perfect.
Absolutely. It's really nice to be able to keep alternate words in play. Like you may write your line and have 3 words that could go in at this place. Like three different words that will say this thing. Right as rain, right as pain, right as blame, whatever. Put all 3 in there with slash marks or something between them, and they're all in play until you decide which one it's actually going to be. I just find it really helpful. It might not be for your particular process. That might not be your thing, but I recommend it. I recommend that you have an easy way to move your ideas around and keep things in play, so that you're not locked into one set way of doing it. I see a raised hand there in Lake Dog World.
Hello?
We need
Yeah.
to sign off, but we wanted to let you know.
What, yeah. What, happy trails to you
Are you taking off?
until we meet again. This has been big fun, but we have to go. Thank you so much.
You're totally
Hope
welcome.
to see you soon.
We're going to post this as a video so you can check out the last part later if you like.
Excellent.
All right,
Okay.
thanks you guys.
Thank you so much.
Happy trails.
Okay, goodbye.
Be well.
So, okay. Here's one that I really like too. This is similar to the cliche hunt, but it's a little more refined than that. This is for when the song is nearing completion, or if you're rewriting an old song. Go through the whole song, musically and lyrically, and ask yourself this question. What is the weakest line or part of this song? What is the weakest thing here? What is the thing that, the phrase that seems a little shoehorned in, like a little too many syllables for the rhythm structure, or where are you patching over a lyrical pothole instead of actually just moving your song forward? And see if you can fix it. See if you can make it. See if you can make it better and closer to that yes feeling. See if you can take it closer to yes. And when you've done that, look over the song again and ask yourself, now, what's the weakest part about the song now? Are there any phrases or anything in here where you kind of go, I never was happy with that. Paul Simon said that, when he wrote Bridge Over Troubled Waters, the first two verses and the chorus just was one of those outpourings. And then I forget why, maybe he was on tour or something in the story, but there was a big gap between the first two verses and the last verse. The first two verses are when you're weary, when you're down and out. The last one is Sail on Silver Girl. And he said that he never really felt great about that third verse because he was off the inspiration train by then and he couldn't get back to where he was exactly. He always felt like that part wasn't as good as the other two, or it just didn't sit with him as well. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. I mean, obviously that's a beautiful song and many people love it, including me, but that if I had that in one of my songs that I had that feeling about, and I wasn't under any commercial or deadline or recording label pressure or whatever, I would do my best to see how can I make that. Very often my first verse or my first line, my first thing that comes out is just it's just of a piece. I just wrote a song recently, and the first verse was it's been one of those years. No. The first verse was, it's been one of those days, now it's one of those nights. When me and the world, all we do is fight. My hands just can't do anything right. It's been one of those days, now it's one of those nights. So it just, whether you like it or not, it flows nicely. It fits those syllables and stuff. So then I started writing from there, and I wanted every verse, if I could, to just sound as conversational and roll off the tongue as easy as it's been one of those nights, now it's one of those days, now it's one of those nights. And I almost did it. The next verse is, it's been one of those weeks, now it's one of those weekends. And then the next verse is, it's been one of those months, now it's one of those seasons. And the next verse is, it's been one of those years, now it's one of the, and here comes another. It's just like, I wanted it to sound as relaxed as the first one. And I got to within 80-90% of it, and I just couldn't do any better. So that's when the song was done. But the point is, we all know, I think, if we look at a song right after we've done with our first serious draft, you can look at that thing over and listen to that feeling, that yes/no feeling, and you know that something is. The whole song is usually not as strong as its strongest part, and do what you can to elevate the weak parts to as high, close to that yes feeling as you can get them. I think that's really worth doing, especially if you know something's weak. I mean, and you're not under pressure. If you're under deadline pressure, then you settle for good enough. But if you're not under a deadline pressure, why not spend another month? Why not spend another week? Think about that line. I think about lines that are troubling me all the time. I'll go for a walk. I'll change my outlook. I'll change my scenery. I'll smoke a hit of weed, or I'll get myself in a different mood, take a shower, whatever, and just think about that line and wait for an answer. Because sometimes what just pops into my head, I think it's important to put pressure on the problem, but also important to sit back from the problem. You put pressure on the problem, then take a shower. Put pressure on the problem, take a walk. Pressure on it, look at it, look away, and then sometimes the answer will come because your unconscious mind is working on the problem, and when you step out of the way for a second, it comes up with an answer. But I think that looking for the weak spots and seeing if you can make them even just a little bit better. Get the song till every line, every note, everything about it is as close to that yes feeling as you can get it. Without Leonard Cohen used to spend 6 years on a song sometimes. You might want to go that far. I've had songs that took that long. I didn't work on them every day for 6 years, but from the initial inception to the final song, a few years might have passed. But I think that can be a really good way to challenge yourself and a good way to improve the amount of yes that you have in your tune by doing that. Anybody ever try that one? And is that look for the weak spots, man. You know what they are.
I've found sometimes I get to the point of trying to change a song so much that I will print out a copy of it occasionally just so I can go back and remember what it was in its entirety. Because I sometimes lose the first approach. It may have been more simple.
Right. If you feel like you're overthinking it, kind of step back and just kind of look at the initial stuff. Printing it, that can be a good tool just to see it on paper. A little different from this.
Look at it 2 months later and see if the song is still the same.
Right. It's really nice thing to do. You can do it with other people's songs too if you just want to practice. Like print up the lyrics to a famous song, maybe by the band that begins with B, and you can just look at those lyrics and say, if this was my song, what's the weakest line in this song? What's the one that takes me out of it the most? And say, what would I do if this was my song? What would I want to? How would I improve this? Keep your tools sharp. When you don't have an inspiration to work on, you can work on someone else's song. Those are that can be a really cool thing. Along those lines, and this is something that I think we all, especially as people none of us are kids here, so we were raised with songs that made sense. We were raised with songs that had a lyrical, logical quality to them, like a flow to them that told more or less a story. They weren't just sort of haikus or just lyric collages of emotional moments. Like I notice a lot of songs that I listen to, pop music songs now, there's a healthy percentage of them that seem to make no sense whatsoever. They're just a collage of emotional statements. But if you're kind of a little more message oriented, like our generation tends to be more of, see if your message is overwhelming your song's musicality. So look for lyrics that say what you want to say, but don't seem shoehorned into the melody or the beat. File off the rough edges a little bit. Listen to the music of your song. Does it fit the message? Like, are they actually in sequence? Like, could someone who didn't understand English listen to your song and get a clue about what it was about or the basic feeling of it? Because sometimes, sometimes our message can overwhelm our musicality. I certainly need to work on this myself. uh, I have an idea that I want to get across, but this isn't a TED talk, you know, it's a song. So I have to figure out a way for this to be musical. I got this idea from a friend of mine who listened to a mutual friend do kind of some political material, and he said, you know, I like this guy and I like his message, but he's losing the musicality. He's just setting up a few chords to speak over. He's not really, it isn't musical. He's not thinking about the music enough to come up with a musical version of what he's saying. And so I think this is one that is not a bad idea. Like when you're in the formation process, when you're putting that music and words together, try playing just the music and ask yourself, does this convey the mood of what I'm saying over the music? Are they in sync with each other, or am I writing a doom dicka doom, famine and death and starvation? You know, it's just that doesn't fit unless you're going for musical irony. If you're going for musical irony, you deliberately have like Tom Lehrer's song, Let's Drop the Big One, Political Science it's called. No one likes us, I don't know why, no one's perfect, but heaven knows we try. Let's drop the big one and see what happens. It's like boom, boom, London, boom, Perry, more room for me, more room for me. You know, he's singing about blowing up the world, but he's doing it in a jaunty beat because he's being ironic. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, well, if you're writing a song about a serious and dire subject, does your music convey that? So make sure that the whole song releases a charge for you, and you're not obsessed with your message, right? So and the sort of last point that I want to make here, we're only going to go like another 10 minutes or so. The last thing, major point that I want to make is what to do when you're uninspired, when you have so-called writer's block. I've hinted at that somewhat so far. One of the major things you can do is sharpen your tools. And that means go over your song ideas, throw out the ones that aren't doing anything for you anymore, or reprioritize them. Dust off some, like as Bill was saying, look in your old notebooks, see if there's some unfinished gem in there that you discarded at the time but now maybe speaks to you. Change your guitar strings. Clean up your music room, Steve. Go over your existing ideas, play other people's music. Just play other people's music. Listen to other people's music. You can give yourself assignments to help hone your skills. Again, sharpening your tools. Like one of the ones that I used to like was watch a movie and then write a song from one character in the movie to another. Even if it doesn't end up being one of your keepers, your songwriting juices are flowing and you're sharpening your tools a little bit. Or you might you might have a line or two in that song that you keep for something else. You could just look around your room and just pick any inanimate object that you see and write a song from the perspective of that object. Like, what's it like to be a clock, or what's it like to be a speaker, or what's it like to be a egg. The idea isn't to write necessarily a great song, or even write one that you like or that you keep, but mainly it's literally for the workout. It's like martial artists. We train to punch and move and do all this stuff. You don't wait for the fight. You sharpen your tools when you're not doing it. One thing that's a great idea is just to make up alternative lyrics to a famous hit song. Like take a Beatles song, take a Rolling Stone song, take a Tom Petty song, and change the lyrics. Write a song about how you will back down. Right, something like that. Like change up the, write a song in a random genre. Write a song in a genre that you don't usually write in. Turn on the radio. First song that comes on, write an answer to that song. Write a song in that genre, even if it's hip hop or something that you don't normally listen to. Not that you're going to keep it, not that you're necessarily going to like it even, but just exercise the muscles, like try to write a hip hop song from your perspective. like, and see what comes out. You might end up with something that would be embarrassing to play out loud, but you might have 2 or 3 lines in there that, you know, you like and that you keep, and or you might get an inspiration for a whole nother song that's an actual original song in the process of doing that. So I'm curious, does anybody have anything else that they want to share about what to do when you're stumped and you just haven't written something for a while and you want to get your, you know, your juices going, or, you know, you have that writer's block feeling? Those are just some of the things that I do. But I'm curious if any of you have any other strategies or things that you like to do.
I take classes like this.
Classes are a great idea, especially the ones that are more like where you're like a support group and like a circle, and the leader maybe gives you ideas. Like, you know, I've been in groups where we had assignments, and one of the assignment was write a song from the perspective of an inanimate object. That's a fairly reasonably common assignment, but it's a great one if you really do it. Like, really think about it. Pick an object and write the best song you can about a roll of tape, you know, and see what you can do. It might not be any good, but you're exercising those muscles, and I would be surprised if there wasn't some line or phrase or something in there that sticks with you that you could maybe rework and use as a seed for something else. Did you have your hand up, Diana?
Oh, I just wanted to say, you know, you were talking about organizing and the files and everything. And I just wonder how you guys handle it. Like, I've got a song and I've rewritten it and revised it and changed the chords. And so each time I save it anew, but now I got like 10 copies of this song. Do you keep it? Maybe keep the first one, delete the rest? Or, you know, I just feel like I got a lot of files.
Right. Well, I tend to have one that I'm mainly working on, and the other versions I push off to the side or I push down. And once it's done and I really like it and I say, okay, this is the final version, I do look at those other versions and I say, is there anything in here that could be a seed of another song or that could go anywhere else? I've neglected to mention one other folder that I have, and I just call it Flashes. And it's one long ass Word document, and I just dump anything onto the bottom of that document that's just a flash, just like an idea or a phrase or something that didn't go anywhere, but I'm not ready to give it up, and I throw it in there. And sometimes when I'm stumped in a song and I just can't figure out what to do with that next verse, I'll just go in there and just read them all and see if any one of these little flashes or snippets is useful. But usually I don't keep alternate versions of a song. If I like the version, if ultimately this is the one I like, this is the one I feel best about, I won't keep another version of that same song with just a few words different. I'll go through there and say, is anything salvageable? If yes, put it in the salvageable pile or folder or document, and then I delete those, so I've got just the complete song. And that's what I do when in that situation.
Yeah, that's I feel like I need to start cleaning out some of those old versions. It's like, well, it's done now, so
yeah. And
really
if you did that in a time when you feel writer's block or when you feel stumped, it's just nice to go in there and do housekeeping. It gives you a songwriting task, songwriting work to do when you're not actually inspired.
Yeah. Well, my battery's dying here, so I think I better sign off. But thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you, Diana. We're almost
Thanks,
done
Diana.
anyway.
Okay.
I just want to
Bye.
do bye, Diana.
Bye.
I just want to do just a little. Did someone else want to share something about writer's block or how they get out of it or any strategies they have with that?
One of the things that I've used pretty successfully is to just do what's called automatic writing and start writing without any idea.
Oh, right.
So just pick up the pencil and
Right.
don't pay any attention to expansion or what you're writing about and see where it goes. If it's to just a point of saying, well, I can't figure out anything to write about, and this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. The year my dad took me down to the pond, and by the way, that damn pond.
By the way, that pond.
And the next thing you know, there's some subjects going on, and by the time I'm 2/3 of the way through it, I'm starting to drop some lines in there, and then
Right.
I go back with a highlighter or highlighting the text if I'm typing it, and pick out the good stuff and bring that down into the blow it and see if I've got some things to work with there.
Automatic writing is a great way to tap into your unconscious mind, because that's ultimately what we're doing. There's a part underneath there that is inspired and related to life, and something comes up in there that's a charge or something that we want to say. Like Marjorie, your song about the monarchs, you know, you must have seen one or read something about monarchs or had some, and like something in you stirred, like, oh, these are beautiful butterflies that are endangered. Beauty is in danger, basically. And that creates a charge. And then that charge needs to be released and spoken or sung or expressed in some way. And then it starts to come up to your conscious mind as like, I need to write a song about this, or I want to write a song about this. So sometimes, you know, just informing that part of yourself is a good idea. Like, just take in the world, just go to a movie, read books, look at the world, take in information. And then sometimes it's nice when nothing is clearly bubbling up from that, to just take out a pen, as Gus says, and just write without thinking. Just write. Sometimes you can do that after listening to a specific piece of music. Like, put on a song that you love, or a song that's acknowledged as a masterpiece of some kind, Beethoven's Ninth, or Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, or Like a Rolling Stone. Put on like a great piece of music, or one that you really enjoy, which would be a better way to phrase it, given our workshop here.
Yeah, actually.
Pull out the paper, and just write immediately after you hear that song. Write whatever comes into your mind, and see if there's anything there. You never know.
Yeah.
That's a good
Which
idea.
reminds me too, I had to do some research on the monarch, because, you know, Wikipedia said it's not endangered, but apparently there's a lot of different species of monarch, or varieties or something. Anyway, so so sometimes research too.
Yeah, you're gonna have to find a rhyme for milkweed.
Yeah.
That's all they eat.
A lot of things, they don't have
Really?
to be exact rhymes. They can be tree, milkweed. It rhymes enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It
Exactly.
doesn't have to rhyme.
Partial rhymes are awesome.
Yeah.
Partial rhymes are awesome. Yeah.
Monarch. It's more than a moth.
But also,
you know, you could actually talk about the monarchy.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah.
But just informing yourself about, like, if you know, sometimes I think, like, I'm writing a song about something, and I'm using a nautical metaphor, or I'm using a race car metaphor, or I'm using a travel journey metaphor, and sometimes I'll just go online and just type in a few words and see if I can just learn a little more information, just inform my subconscious a little bit. We haven't talked about rhyming and rhyming dictionaries or any of that stuff. Any of you guys use rhyming dictionaries?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I used to have an actual textbook that I used. There's now I just use this website, which is great. It has a little narrow, you know how some web pages are designed to cover the whole page? This page is designed to cover just this. It's just the center of the page, so you can shrink that down really narrow and slide it over to the side of your computer screen. It's the heck is it called? Just take a second to bring this up. But yeah, I look them over. You know, I generally I don't automatically default to that, but it's called rhymezone.com. RHYME zone.com. I like this one a lot. You can do synonyms, you can do antonyms, you can do near rhymes, it gives you all kinds of options. Rhymezone.com. It's worth a peek. Yeah. So I just wanna did you have something else to say, Marjorie?
Yeah. I was in this other the Yosemite retreat thing, which has, you know, the Zoom tips and all that. And we analyzed some kind of cover song that everybody knows. I don't know what song it was. We analyzed several of the rhyme patterns, and they, you know, like in one verse, they would have, a different rhyme pattern than the next verse. We can be loose with rhyme patterns. We don't have to do,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Certain
And we don't have to make it rhyme at all either, you know.
My goal with a lot of my stuff is I'm aiming for that Hank Williams quality of it just sounds like he's making it up on the spot. It just sounds natural. It doesn't sound crafted. It doesn't sound worked over. Hear that lonesome whippoorwill, he sounds too blue to fly. The midnight train is whining low, I'm so lonesome I could cry. It's just like he's just reporting from his life, but yet it's poetic. And you know, I like that feeling. And if it's a near rhyme, you know, it's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's totally cool. I love near rhymes that are funny, you know, like where you're really doing. I love rhymes that are kind of a little outrageous and that actually tickle you a little bit. But yeah, no need to be too rigid about that. That's what this site is good, because it gives you lots of options. You can find near rhymes, you know, you can do double syllables and all that kind of stuff. Those are all technical tricks, but the main thing is really, I'm advocating or recommending, trust that yes feeling more than the intellectual knowledge that this is saying the right thing or is doing a good job of rhyming or not rhyming. Trust the yes feeling, because that's a way to use music and to use the songwriting process to reveal yourself, to know, to learn more about yourself through searching for what jives with that feeling, as opposed to just what you think will please other people, what you think will get other people to say, yes, that's good. The songs that I've gotten the most compliments on are songs that I was the least self-conscious about and least thinking, oh, this is a good song, this is a good idea. I was mostly smiling and just tickled to myself. If I come up with a line in a song and I'm smiling or laughing like as I come up with it, then I know I'm not the only one. I wrote this song called, it's one of my more controversial tunes, but it's called I'm Not Gay But I Don't Like Girls. and I played it at the Wild Goose for the first time, and I looked out in the audience and I said, this one goes out to, and I just named all my male friends in the room. And I just started up the thing, I'm not gay, but I don't like girls, who think they're the center of the world. It's just like certain girls. But when I said that first line, the place just exploded in laughter and applause, because I knew it. It popped a bubble. It popped a little frustration bubble that people had, particularly male people had. Although I got a great comment on YouTube. A guy wrote in, I'm gay and I am gay and I don't like girls. but you know, when you release the main thing I want to say is, I'm going to give you a little summary here briefly, is trust that yes feeling. Write down everything that grabs you, anything that releases a charge that you just like, and keep that stuff that consistently gives you the yes feeling. Keep that. Let the yes feeling be your editor. Think of music in terms of what gives you this feeling and what doesn't give you this feeling. Try to leave good and bad out of the picture. Don't try to write a good song. Try to write a song that you feel good about. Step up your organization a little bit if you can. If you can bump your organization up just a little bit. Not that being organized is good and that you're bad for being disorganized. Just be more ready for new ideas. The organization is just a way to talk to your own unconscious and the universe and say, I'm ready for ideas. Give them to me. Be more, frame your work into some kind of a loose system that makes writing easier than harder. Go on a cliche hunt. Root out the stuff that, or at least try to root out the stuff that you've heard before. Find new and better ways to say it. Don't settle for easy rhymes. Within your writing system, figure out a way to keep alternative versions in play so that you can keep them nearby and cut and paste and move things around a little bit. If you've got a nearly done song, see if you can weed out the weakest parts of it and keep using that yes feeling. It's easy to default to your head. It is for me anyway. It's really easy for me to think about the song, and that's okay. But whatever my thinking comes up with, it always has to pass the body, full body. Yes, does this feel good to sing? Sometimes I'm out on a walk, and I'm working over some idea in my head, and I come up with what I think is the right answer, the right number of syllables to get me from A to B and say what I want to say. I think I've solved a little problem in there. Then I come home, pick up my guitar and play it, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't sing easy. It maybe intellectually fit the thing, but it doesn't. it's getting closer, but it's not there yet because it doesn't give me that feeling. So see if you can get that yes feeling to be your guide, to be your inspiration, to be your editor, and don't be afraid to say no, it doesn't do it for me. It's close, but it doesn't do it. I got to sit with this longer. None of us are on big production deadlines, so you can afford to let a song sit in the folder for a month while you're thinking about it and trying to come up with a better way to say that thing, or a more truthful way to express it. So those are my pointers and my kind of philosophy of writing, especially the yes feeling and the using the words this works for me or doesn't work for me, as opposed to this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. You'll hear me comment on our open mics, and either in the chat line or in the direct communication. I enjoyed that part. I really liked the way you brought this in, liked the way you did that, and I try to leave out that was awesome, that was good, that was that kind of stuff. It just doesn't really do much for me to hear that. Any comments, any last minute thoughts on any of this stuff?
I had a good time, Gene.
All right.
I did too.
That was my hope, is that you would take one or two things out of this, just one or two things, practical things that you can go, hey, I'll try looking at it that way, or I'll try doing that way. And if anything I've said today or anything we've talked about together results in anything specific that changes anything about the way you do things, or affects any of the songs that you're currently writing or whatever, I'd love to hear about it. Either personally in an email, mail@geneburnett.com is my email, or just mail@geneburnett.com. Or, you could tell me at the next Zoom open mic, or the next thing you could say, hey, I got this idea from that workshop we did or something. It would be great to hear how this actually works, because I've never really done this kind of thing before. So I just wanted to put some ideas out there and see if they could be helpful.
I enjoyed it very much. I'm sorry it was late.
Oh, no worries, man. You weren't very late at all, and you got all the stuff anyway. All right.
It went really well, Gene. Great. Just about 2 hours of good, solid information. It worked out really well.
Great. Love to get the video link eventually, and I'll share another. I'll rip it and share a version on my page as well if I can, and then that way the ideas will go out there, and maybe some of our members who weren't here today can benefit from it and check it out.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Gene Burnett.
Thank you, guys.
And thanks, everyone, for showing up. We're going to sign off, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, Steve. Thanks again, Gene.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Gene.
All right.